Zach from Gravel Bike California, here in San Luis Obispo, ready to take you to an adventure up to Pismo Preserve. Now, we've had some adventures with slow gravel, but this time of year it's special with their Wednesday night rides, and at the end of the month they head south out of town to Pismo Preserve. This almost 900-acre open space was purchased in 2014 and opened to the public in 2020 with miles of trails. Okay, you figured out, Vic and I ended up taking a train there this time, and we think that's part of the adventure too, especially when I have to do an intro over the sound of locomotives. So let's roll! Last summer, Slow Gravel hosted our first Send It in the area, with Jason guiding us up Cerro Alto and taking us on a loop through Morro Bay. But unfortunately, I wasn't in town midweek, so I knew a Wednesday night ride had to be in my future. We took the Coast Starlight that has limited stops all the way up to Seattle, but on this line, the cargo car is way far away from our seats, with Monique kind enough to give us VIP service, as everything feels more relaxed on a train. One of the things I love about taking the train is you can just kick back, relax, have a chat with a friend. There's also plenty of table space and you can plug in your electronics, so time goes by a lot faster than you think. One pro tip is to remove your shifting battery because it might drain during motion. With our ride up to San Luis Obispo, where we could just kick back and relax with the views on both sides. Tempting to hop out for lunch in Santa Barbara, but it's great to see parts of the coast you won't see any other way. Expanse blending into the mountains on the east. Seeing the cyclist parallel, a good sign we were in San Luis Obispo. Not rushed getting out of the train, even though our bikes were more than 2 football fields away, as San Luis Obispo has one of the more prolonged stops on this route. Though Jason was waiting already in go mode, quickly hopping on our bikes to maximize our riding, though first headed to his house to drop our gear off. And it makes sense that the center part of town is by this old depot, as San Luis Obispo has this charm like very other places, partly having great infrastructure keeping it more in a human scale, but a number of modest-sized crafty homes, even though a great number live here. Pismo Preserve is a worthy experience on its own, taking us 10 miles to reach on our direct route from San Luis Obispo, but there are add-on options, like this sidebar looping around Johnson Ranch, or taking the long way around up Perfumo Canyon with views of Morro Bay that we've covered in an earlier video. We had about an hour and a half to kill before our Pismo ride. Not quite literally. Heading due south out of town for a quick dirt escape on the other side of the 101, making our way into Johnson Ranch. Doing a short 2.5 mile loop that was pretty flowy, though very thoughtful to ring the bells for our presence. Even being the end of April, I was surprised at the amount of green, with opportunities for me to early embarrass myself on camera, as just a couple minutes in, we seemed to be above most. And while I wasn't exactly sure where we were headed, I knew it was going to be pretty wherever we were doing it. Getting the gain in early left a lot of space for downhill, and we were ready to oblige, although I was feeling a little queasy from the train ride, though thankfully not hard to get lost here. So I wanted to be extra careful crossing this bridge, and I did better with narrow spaces later, with Vic and I content to let the JSI lead the way. Closing off this loop, Johnson Ranch definitely punched above its weight. I think Vic felt pretty pumped from today's prelude. Now having to do a little bit of backtracking, heading over to the start of today's ride, to the hub that is Art Cyclery, that has a big, open, welcoming feel, yet a lot of bike goods stacked in. And you should be careful managing your time in shops like these, because you should be getting ready for your group ride, reuniting with Nathan of another steel beauty from Sarahworks, with elegant details eschewing some of the more modern ones, yet providing a very sustainable ride. I don't know if you would call it standing or sitting room only, but definitely we had a lot of riders packed in, taking some side roads early on to avoid as much of Higuera Street as we could, as I got to reunite with Humberto, spending a lot of time with him during the Sea Otter gravel race earlier this month, with everyone here well versed in group tactics and polite enough to pull over on a flat tire, with the road narrowing as Higuera transitions into Ontario Road, passing by the popular Bob Jones Trail taking you straight into Avila Beach, though our focus was doubling our pleasure, with the hills waning back, meaning it was camera time, being by the coast here in Pismo Beach, though once again we'd be hopping around the freeway, getting back onto the east side, where it was too late in the day to take matters up at City Hall, turning us into the gates of Pismo Preserve, where I don't think any of us were breaking rules today. And it's good to follow suit when you see others hydrate, with the importance high keeping our stoke at top notch, where a ceremonial group picture was well received. You can divide this Pismo Preserve loop into 4 parts, first with our rubber banding ascent up the Discovery Trail, leveling off for fun on the Peekaboo loop to the picnic table, then a taste of momentum before climbing up the Panhandle Trail to our highest point, with the grand finale of Gravity finishing it off. With 1,100 feet of gain in 8.5 miles, the word repeats might become a larger part of your vocabulary. It was all systems go, starting off in a counterclockwise direction, where the Library of Bells already seemed to be checked out, with the group funneling its way onto the Discovery Trail, where we'd be doing the bulk of our climbing early on, almost seeming too soon for the elevation to already pay off, correctly staying on the trail crossing Range Road, as this was a real elegant way of climbing, and I'm not talking because we're in the midst of changing seasons, but sometimes ascending can be quite playful, especially when you're not doing it in a straight line, feeling a little bit of torque as you bank around the curves, with the only interruption to our flow was having to navigate the occasional rock garden, but your focus is mainly about enjoying this ride that always takes you into new spaces, making you feel thankful that this preserve was preserved. And while it's easy to remember the fun that downhill brings, I was contently occupied so far, and there's only so much I can capture what this looks like in IRL, meaning I was fine just enjoying this at my own pace, as in this county you better be comfortable with these cattle crossings. Interesting how these oak trees help shape the trail, until one last momentum stopping break before things really start getting cooking. Having ridden here previously, I definitely wanted a crew for the next part, as you won't get a sense of where you're headed in this middle of the shrubbery on the way to the Peekaboo Trail, as this trail had to be created for the sole purpose of putting smiles on faces. This little bow tie is definitely worth a second go around, but we wanted to latch back with the group that we had no idea how far behind we were, but we were going to have a good time finding out, with a little bit of work making our way, though nowhere into putting us into the red, with everyone ready to strap up for our second half of the preserve. With all the events Taylor shoots, you know there's something special when he puts his camera away, this time with me starting out more in the middle of the pack, with a couple of choices how to take a seat, as there are fire road options within the preserve, but the flowy single track is largely preferred, making me think about the young age of this open space. And while there are obstacles here and there, it's pretty remarkable how well it's laid out, with primarily smooth conditions, turns that play different notes, and views testing how well you handle distractions. It was time for our little appendage up the Panhandle Trail, which right off the bat, you'll think it's inappropriately named unless your home cookware is serpentine in nature, and the novelty of seeing others pass in parallel was balanced out against the heavy pitch on the switchbacks. But despite having to do some work, there is a caveat, making sure to study this portion as close as possible, using this knowledge, knowing we'd be reversing down this soon, and hopefully no hike-a-bikes for Vic on the descent.
It wasn't just them.
It was a short, manageable dismount, with the top not far of a pedal after, but being at the apex may have something to do with the clouds, that despite today's outlier, still providing some intriguing views below, which is where John from Scout Coffee would soon lead us, needing to take one last breath of clean air, because with all the downhill ahead of us, our inhaling would only become grainier with the speed increasing. And even though Pismo Preserve had been astonishing so far, never feel like you need to apologize for receiving even more. Sorry to have to literally shut the door in the fun, but the great part about gravel are these shared experiences. Seeing how similar or different our takes are, comparing this blast of a descent, now getting back to reality, with 10 miles back to Art Cyclery, with the views a little different coming in this direction, looking back towards the Villa Beach region, with some Pismo gardeners showing off some of their own colors, this time turning away from a Villa Beach drive, with the route doing a return on the east side of the 101 that was also a road that we felt like we had all to ourselves. And when you're riding on a street with a winding nature, it makes it hard to see when people are sprinting away from you. And even knowing the way to get back, I didn't want to be this far behind. Noting that like on other group rides, you'll find pinch points where people want to sprint, and even catching up to the bulk of it, I didn't want to be in the back again. Not having lofty goals, just striving to be in the middle, with the pace settling down, thinking I was safe for now. As we close this loop off, going back over the 101, feeling stress levels turned down, glad I put on layers like others. Although making a right turn at the light would take me back to Arts, I was heading with others for tacos, and the opportunity for me showing off getting dropped for another unknown sprint, where I had no idea where the finish line was. Although I've seen this on other group rides, where the marker is a city limit sign, definitely feeling full step, we were back in San Luis Obispo, passing the San Luis Obispo Public Market, which is a converted 100-year-old ranch, meandering around downtown in a back way, once again showing off the city's connected bike infrastructure, even fondly remembering this playground I took my daughter to almost a decade ago, making our way on the northern hub on Monterey Street, where I think Slow Gravel has seen my videos, because I love including awkward eating shots. And cheers to Jason for up and down, making this a great trip. The next morning, it was time to end our 2-month stint in San Luis Obispo with a pre-dawnish train we had to catch. Thankful we didn't have to bike far to get there. With the train all ready to go, open the door, we've got to make it home. Although we're happy to take it slow.
You know, a lot of people thought the idea of this trip was kind of crazy, just going all the way out of town just for a ride. But I tell you, the train made it so simple. But geez, Pismo Preserve is really just enough. If you just want to do it for the views alone, that's fine, and there's other options up there. But the single track, oh, we had so much fun, and they almost need to do this every day. It's that great of a ride. Anyways, thanks to Jason, Slow Gravel, and everyone that came out. And if you want us to make more videos like these, please hit the like or subscribe button, go to our shop, or support us on Patreon so we can bring you more from the State of Dirt.